Spill some tea, sister.
Hi.
Yoon. Wrong show.
What did you do?
My funny bone on my water. Oh, my water. Welcome back to another episode.
Episode 16.
Episode 16.
We are almost there.
This is where we thought it was ending.
Yeah. They did save a lot of the action for this episode. Saved a lot of mess.
I said something to you after we watched the episode where I said, every episode, we get about an hour in, and I go, this episode's kind of slow. And then the back half of the episode is like...
It's just mess.
Yeah. These straight people aren't well. I'm starting to think that.
I think so. I think that's why they came on the show.
Yeah.
Here's our top comment. The favorite comment for us from this episode.
Our top comment.
Our top comment. Yeah. Your clothes look good, and somehow these colors are my favorite.
Was it just blue? We were just wearing blue? It was
just blue. You were wearing your... the sweater that I got you.
Oh, with my Hills Are Alive with Sound of Music sweater. Mm-hmm.
And I was just wearing my little cardigan moment.
Yeah, your new favorite cardigan.
My new favorite cardigan.
Where did you get that?
Uniqlo.
Oh, right.
The other actual top comment that I'll pick is from Kenneki. It's crazy how at the beginning of the show I wanted all the exes to get back together, and now I want all the exes to stay away from each other.
True.
Lol. They wrote Lou, but I think they meant lol. Yeah. And yet...
Well, they meant to write Looney Tunes because they're all cartoon characters.
I would agree with that sentiment. I think we're getting a lot of it right now because it's at the end of the show and people are realizing that the end is coming.
Yeah.
I think that's the pressure that no one really talks about, but is apparent in how people are acting. They're trying to have closure with all of their exes.
Because Jeju, they've been basically doing a day at a time, a day per episode.
Yeah.
Whereas like the first half of the show was like an episode was like the first part of the day, and then an episode was like the end of the day. So they really only have a week in Jeju.
Yeah. And it has felt like it's been 5 years.
Truly. Here's the item for today. Okay. So we have the chosen dates from the girls choosing the guys. So we'll talk about all 6 of those. And then we'll talk about texting. We'll talk a lot about texting.
They talk about texting too.
Oh, there's lots of conversations to be had. And then
we're just gonna
round robin some of the couples.
Yeah.
Not everybody, because like we don't need to talk about Jeong and Kwang Tae. They're fine.
They're fine.
And by they're fine, they're just not a storyline anymore. And like, are they the only one that isn't a storyline anymore?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I think now, because their storyline really is Kwang Tae is trying to get his groove back.
Yeah. Daehye inspired him.
Yeah.
He was like, I want that. Here are the dates. So Jonggeun goes on a date with Dongjin. This is her second date with Dongjin. They go to a hill.
To like walk.
In autumn.
They just walk up and walk down. And that was pretty much it.
They walk up and walk down. And I will say this is like probably the quickest dates we get in the entirety of the show. Mm-hmm. All of these dates, we got like 4 minutes of them, and then we moved on.
You know what I realized? Dongjin always picks the breakfast dates, right?
Yeah, because he's always up first.
He's always up first.
I think production might just ask him if he wants, like once they realize that he's like an early riser.
But then the only time that I could tell he had like a great date was at night. Granted, it was K1.
Yeah.
But I could tell it was the first time where he wasn't like trying to rush, or it didn't feel like the date was too short. Because it does feel like it's really short for everyone.
This one specifically.
This one felt really short. They basically had one conversation.
Up a hill.
And then walked down, and they were like, have fun. And Jongin is very sweet. She's like, I didn't want to look sad, but I couldn't help it. Like, I looked really sad that he had to go.
She's growing on me. I like her a lot.
Yes. Because she is not unlike Yu Jung, very sure of what she wants.
Well, this is what I was going to bring up. So she asks Dongjin, are you and like Dahae, like let's say you don't go get back together, are you still going to maintain a relationship? Are you going to maintain like a friendship, or are you like, and then we're never going to speak to each other again? And I think that's like the third thing that you don't think about on the show. Is like, how do you end it here
and then just go to normal life and don't, and be like, and I'll never talk to that person again?
Right. Do you end it poorly to the point that you can't talk to them ever again? Which is like,
but it's like,
you're now feels like Sangjeong and Minhyung are doing currently.
But then they're like, you're in a friend group now.
Right.
You know?
Well, and also like if your ex gets with like
a person that you like are friends with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad Dahae and Haewon aren't close, but if they were like besties, you could say.
Yeah.
I don't know how Dahae would have a harder conversation, I think, to have.
Yeah. It's like, and I think Haewon would feel more
like she would
more reticent to
being with him.
Mm-hmm. And Dongjin says he like wants to be like friends with her, like he wants to like be an advisor to her, because he was like, well, because we were like, we've trained for the same job.
He has this sense of like, I don't think it can be helped that we won't be fully out of each other's lives. I think we're still going to end up relying on each other.
I think Dongjin is a person who wants to give advice.
Yes.
Do you feel that?
I do. I think he's better suited with someone like Haewon, who is like much younger, maybe.
I think so too.
As opposed to someone like Dahae, who he shared dreams with.
Yes.
He needs the separation.
And they like formed together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he needs that separation. That's why I feel like they can just move on from one another. Because I think
so too.
It's time for them to have that like second great love, as opposed to seeing if this can
it's not common for people who were like basically together in high school to stay together. And like if people do, that's great, but like you become a completely different person. Mm-hmm. Like as you go through adolescence into young adulthood.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think it can work if you're also able to accept that change. Because I do, like, obviously that happens. But if the people don't want to accept that change, which I think is what probably happened to Dongjin, he really resented having to change multiple times in their relationship. But I also feel bad for Jongwon, because I think she likes him the most out of him and
well, she texts him later. Of the three, I think he's a very good. He has that. He's not like too witty. Like he's just funny guy enough to where like it's like charming.
It's dad joke.
It's dad joke. Yeah. It's like an energy you like to be around, but it's not like overpowering, and it doesn't overshadow, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not like, there's not really anyone this season, I think, that is kind of that energy, but like someone who's like, I guess Kwangtae of all the guys might be the closest of being like, it's kind of the Kwangtae show.
Yeah.
But Dongjin's like, he's a good complementary presence to whatever is going on. So Jongwon goes on her next date with Juwon, and they go have barbecue together.
Barbecue. This is like the first time they really interact, and even even Jongwon is just like nice to talk, because they are very similar.
So he says, while they're eating, he mentions that like there is someone that he's like started to develop butterflies for, which I think, I mean, there's no way, especially if they know the show is ending in 3 days or whatever, mm-hmm. it's too late to kind of start trying something new. Mm-hmm. So I think it is kind of him sending out the signal of being like,
I'm set.
Closed for business. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Gone fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except he's not fishing. He's caught the fish. Because she's already caught.
A cat. She's a catch. Yeah. Which I feel bad, because we find out later in this episode that he feels like, well, I feel like the fool, because many situations make him realize, well, should I have actually closed it off as quickly as I should have? Because it doesn't look like I'm walking away with anything.
There are many times in the show where there's been a scene in the beginning I'm like, oh my God, they're just dragging out this episode. And then it comes back later and you're like, I get it. Fine. She did say she had romantic feelings for him.
Yeah.
But,
bold.
you know, Juan is
a catch, though.
Yeah. Everybody likes Juan.
He's very comfortable to talk to.
He's got a different energy from all the other guys on the show, for sure. Let's just real quick during this, Min Hyung is trying to make lunch, and Sangjeong won't wake up.
And you see a thing that the night before, she's like, "Oh, are you gonna make lunch? I'll help." And he goes over to her, and she's like, "No, I don't want to. I'm too tired.
Let me sleep some more.
Let me sleep some more." Mm-hmm. And this happens twice.
This does happen twice.
She completely misses lunch. Okay.
She misses most of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next date, Yoo-jung and Kwang-tae. So they go to Udo Island.
Which the whole setup has been like, this is a date that Yoo-jung has literally done every single thing that they did in this date with Changjin.
Yes.
And it, I guess, was like an amazing trip.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. They go pedal boarding,
water bicycles.
What the
panelist said, yeah.
Sure. They do that.
She's so funny in it.
She's so funny. They're like screaming on the water. She gets her like shoes wet, and she immediately is like, my shoes are wet. It's very cute. They do like electric scooters. Mm-hmm. They go have tonkatsu.
The thickest pieces of pork cutlets.
Incredible. And it's just like all around like a really pleasant date. And there's where like the last time they were together was in Itaewon. And they went on like it was like after he had like picked her for the room. And she was like colder toward him. And like
really wasn't trying to show.
Because they went perfumering.
Yes. She's trying to enjoy it. She's like, just because it's not with the person I want to be with in this date doesn't mean I shouldn't still have fun, because it's still about the experience. And I could tell that she really is taking that. That's what she is trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think they have this conversation when they eat their tonkatsus that she's just like, I just don't want you to keep your hopes up, because I wouldn't want you to feel hurt, because that I'm already settled.
Extremely tactfully,
oh my God,
gracefully, politely, elegantly. Like she lets him off so gently, but doesn't make it seem like you're not a great guy.
You're not a great guy. You shouldn't feel bad about yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And Kwang-tae even
is really what he needs to hear more than anything else.
Because he was like, oh yeah, that actually made me reflect. And like, why should I? It works basically. Like, why should I close off on other people when the person that I'm trying to go for isn't actually interested?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, Jeong kind of ate with this decision.
Yeah, she did.
Because her whole thing was like, should I let it happen naturally?
Yeah.
Or should I try and intercept and be like, let me just force you to go on a date with another person?
Right. I think it worked out for the best.
Yeah, totally.
Even though like obviously it didn't work out in the way I think Kwang-tae hoped it would.
Yes. But I don't feel like he regrets.
It still provided him a lot of clarity.
Yes. I don't think he regrets like, well, now I wasted time. Because that's how I would feel. If I was Kwang-tae, I'd be like, well, I just wasted literally like 4 days.
Yeah. I feel really, I mean, like, again, fully differently about Kwang-tae from like when we were in Itaewon, but we talked about this in the car earlier, where I said like, I really do think that he was trying to line someone up
before
Jongin came in, so that he could kind of prove to her like, look, I am able to be loved. Even though, like, obviously it wouldn't be to that extent yet, but, like,
kind of to prove to
he's
quote unquote prove to her, but really to prove to himself that like, see, I can actually get past this.
Yeah.
And I think by not having that and having to force like have that conversation with her, I think actually helped him
totally
way more than if he had his way.
Yeah, because it's really ever since that like crying moment,
he's calmed down.
He's really like chilled out.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was very funny this episode too when he got drunk during the texting. That was very funny.
Because I felt like he was like, well, I don't have to impress anyone anymore. Let me just like, whatever.
The other thing is that Jeong says in her talking head, like, I thought about Changjin a lot during this date. Which I understand it would be very hard. It would like if I went to Paris, I would only be like, oh, I remember when I went to this with RJ. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like going to a movie. Like you've gone to movies with so many people in your life. There's not a specific person like, oh, I always went to the movie with this person. It's like a place.
It's like me if I go to Mackinac Island.
Oh, all the many suitors who are willing to take you to Mackinac Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And eat fudge. That would be me if I went to the Winchester Mystery House without you. I would walk around in stairs that go nowhere and go, all I can think about is Adam.
I feel his presence here. So Huion and Dae go on their date. And this is the most nothing burger date I've ever seen.
They're like, are you hungry? Do you want to go get something to eat? Sure. That was the date.
A date is like going out after school and like grabbing a bite with your friends.
It's not even a date. It was like, I ordered a pickup.
We have to eat today, so we might as well do it together.
And you know what? They did a great job. They were like, we're eating raw fish, girl. We're in Jeju.
Raw.
Bitch.
You like had a visceral reaction.
Yes,
to this
because
food.
the sea cucumbers were moving.
I luckily
so
missed
fresh.
that. I was writing, so I did not see it.
They're so fresh. I watched the like mukbangs.
It's not for me, guys. It really isn't a. I don't like the idea of like that we're eating creatures that have once been alive. I have a friend who's like that. That's not me.
Like, yeah.
It's more like I don't like the way creatures from the sea move.
Yes, because they're like squirming.
It's not a natural. I love fish. I love eating fish. I love raw fish.
Yeah.
We need to leave
the other creatures alone.
The ocean alone.
Yeah. Crustaceans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything
that doesn't have a spine.
If it's,
you know what I mean?
If it's referenced in the lyrics of Under the Sea, we need to just let it be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I watch a lot of YouTube content of like people who will like, today I'm eating this random crazy sea creature. Let me show you how I prepare it. And then they cook it and it looks so good.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Today I'm eating an abalone. Have you ever seen anyone eat a starfish? Can you eat starfish?
That I don't know. Dae is like, I've never gone day drinking before.
Oh, that was really funny. Because I also didn't believe it.
Yep.
So that was why it was fun to me.
That's why
I just feel like she's gone to a brunch once. She was in a group called Bestie. The girl has been to brunch. She's had a mimosa. Chongun goes on a date with Minhyung. Mm-hmm. They go-kart riding, which is very fun. It's very cute.
And they walk along the tea fields.
They sit and like watch the sunset. And they talk about
being doctors.
The medical profession.
And it's very somber. They have this thing
they
of
get
like,
into like,
do you feel really emotional if like they don't get better?
Yeah.
And Minhyung was like, yeah, of course. And she was like, the first thing I ever had to do was to declare death. And I cried harder than the patient's family.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oof. And that's when we had a long conversation about, I think a little bit about the stereotype that they have to be so objective.
Surgeons
specifically to kind of have like a removal of human.
To be able to willing to cut into someone to fix them.
Yeah.
There is a part. One would assume, I am not a surgeon. One would assume there has to be a part of your brain that can like turn
things
off the like
the emotional.
right.
Yeah.
You have to start seeing people as machines
Girl,
to some extent instead of just like full humans.
I saw 3 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. I get it, girl. I get it.
Only 3?
Okay. Yeah. Because it was when she left, she had the prom and she left. She walked away.
That's when you stopped watching?
No, the prom was Denny's dying.
No, I
stopped.
Baby.
I stopped when Izzy left.
Wow.
When she like just, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like
It was like season 3, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was like halfway through season 3. And it wasn't even like because I was like Katherine Heigl's stan, but I was like, everyone's leaving.
I
kind of had that feeling. It was
when
like,
George O'Malley, spoiler alert, died, 007.
Yeah, 007.
That's when I was like, I gotta get out of here. So Dahye and Changjin have the last date of the day. They go laser tagging, and also like it's like a kind of like a
kid zone type
energy. There's like bumper cars and like
yeah,
there's a bunch of goofy stuff.
They play laser tag, and Changjin is like not going easy on her.
It's very funny,
and she's just like, what gives?
Yeah.
And like they're both like sweaty, and there was a moment where they were like taking off their things, and I was like, it feels like there's a lot of sexual tension that are between them.
I didn't feel that way. I know you said that when it happened, but I didn't.
I don't know. I feel like they're both very attractive people, and
I think they're both very attractive.
And all they've done is kind of sulk for the past 2 days.
But I agree with the panel that they do not flirt.
They don't. That's not
what they're here for.
They just like enjoy each other's company.
Yes.
Which makes me think I really don't think they're gonna choose each other.
I don't know. I currently do not know how Dahye is going to choose. I don't. I think Changjin is choosing Yoo-jung, especially after what happens today.
Yeah, I think so too.
Let's talk about what happens today.
They get to dinner.
The biggest thing that you need to know
about dinner.
There's 2 things before we get to dinner. One is that Sangjeong has a conversation. Sorry. One is that Seokyung has a conversation with Hye-won, where Hye-won is like, oh, Huyeon likes you, and Seokyung is like, Huyeon likes me? What are you talking about? Now, Miss Ma'am,
he's texted you multiple times.
He's made it clear, I feel like. And then she's just like, she keeps coming back to being like, well, he couldn't look at me during our date, which like fair, granted. Yeah. But like, you've now had multiple conversations
about it. You've traveled together, like.
So she like alludes to the fact that she liked him, and we don't know what her truth is, right? There is a level of like, I think the panel's right. You are saying this to his ex.
Yes.
So you don't want to be like, oh, I never thought he was attractive, right? Because then it could be putting some, you could be inferring that you think she has poor taste or something like that. Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily that. But what she says is that she thought she had a lot of feelings for him. And then they went on a date and it's a lot less.
Yes.
And then they haven't really spent any time together for it to grow again since.
But then Hye-won is like, oh, that's interesting you say that you thought of him like that, because you said that him and Kwangtae have always been just like, they're like my dongsangs. They're just like my younger brothers.
Yeah. She doesn't see them as men.
Yes.
Very weird.
Yeah.
It's important for later.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately.
The other thing, and this is the Seokyung episode, by the way. This is all we're talking about.
Yeah.
Then later, they're making dinner. Ju-won is making dinner. And Seokyung comes up to him and is like, hey, you need to text Jongin today.
Because after your date, because you had a great date.
Right.
And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, and I'm telling you.
Yes.
I'm instructing you to make sure that you text her.
You have to text Jongin. And it is so weird. And she is not like... She starts playful.
It
starts playful, but it gets very
serious. I know.
And it is a do or die moment.
That's how I've noticed that's how she goes into every time she tries to talk to Ju-won.
Yes. Then they go right before texting. They're they're downstairs in the common area in front of Jeong, and it gets brought up again. And instead of being like, oh, we'll just talk about it later or whatever,
she's just like kiki kaka doing it because it's like, yeah, he pisses me off, blah blah blah.
He won't follow my instructions.
He just needs to follow my instructions.
Yeah.
And Joan is like, I told you that would be weird. And she's like, well, she just had, she's someone that you just had a date with, so you should say thank you to her and not do the same text every night. While Jeong is literally right there in between them.
Technically, I only want to say this because I think it is important. Juan is the one who outs what the conversation
is. Yeah.
But Seokyung is not ashamed at all.
No.
It's weird. It's weird. It's real messy. That is kind of the only big thing that happens. There is a conversation that Dongjin and Hyewan have where they discuss like Hyewan is going to talk to Dahye at some point
because Dahye said let's make sure we talk.
Let's talk. But
and she's trying to like Hyewan is trying to really like get like what could she want, but she does know, but
she knows what she wants, but also I think she's trying to give them time to fix whatever before she's involved.
Because I think she's like, I want to make sure that you two have told each other what you want to tell each other,
right?
Because I think what she's trying to picture is that this is the talk for Dahye to be like my blessing,
which I think Dahye is that's gonna be the talk, even if her and Dongjin don't figure it out, because I think Dahye is, unlike some people on the show, a girl's girl.
Yes.
And I think she's still going to be like, I would be so happy for you if you, like, if there's anyone on the show who knows how great of a guy Dongjin is, it's going to be Dahye.
Yeah.
And Hyewan has said that, like, she would not have been able to get through this show without Seokyung and Dahye.
Totally.
So, it's very sweet.
Yeah.
So, I think even if Dongjin and Dahye kind of whatever, they don't figure out what they need to talk about, I think that she's still going to be like, I just want you to follow your heart, and if it leads you to picking Dongjin, I totally understand why, because he's great. He's Catch. This episode is called Catch. Let's talk about texting. Hyewan texts Dongjin, and Dongjin texts Hyewan.
Great.
Let's do all the ones. I'll just go through. Huion texts Hyewan for the first. I think he's texted her like a couple times, but it hasn't been like this. This felt very like, I'm gonna try again.
They have a small moment washing dishes together.
Yes,
where she was
after
like,
dinner, yep.
Yeah, have you walked over to the green lawn? And he's like, no. Should we walk over there later? And she says, sure.
But she was the only one who helped him do the dishes. Blah, 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 blah. Interesting. So, Jongin texts Dongjin. Of the three guys, she texts him today. Minhyung texts Sangjeong, and Sangjeong texts Minhyung.
They kind of.
We'll talk about it. This, I should be like thrilled that happened. Not thrilled. Not happy.
Not happy at all.
Dahye texts Changjin. Kwangtae texts Seokyung. Because he's like, I'm giving up.
I gotta move on.
Yep. We got 3 days left. Juwon texts Jeong. Did not follow instructions. And Seokyung was
because Seokyung gets a text that says
he texted Jeong.
Yep.
Which I read in Korean. Changjin also texts Jeong. Jeong texts Changjin. It's a nostalgic day.
Yes. It's a nostalgic day, but in the edit, blame it on the edit. You could even the panelists were like, maybe this was her way to be like, I'm not gonna text you until you figure out what's going on over there with you and your ex. And I think the timing of it being that island date, that she was like, well, I have a reason today to text Changjin.
Yeah.
It really did. Following the prompt, I thought about him today.
Yes. The thing that made her heart flutter was not necessarily Kwangtae, but like the memories it dredged up.
Yes.
And then Seokyung, who does she text? Gotta be Juwon, right? Clearly she's...
Just to be like, nope, text Huihyun.
Huihyun.
Because now she knows that, he likes me.
Huihyun likes her. Let's go through each ex couple, because the current couples at this point don't matter for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say is that Haewon and Dongjin have a lovely little chat.
Because
where
Haewon,
he like gives her advice.
Because he sees her have, her feels after the text, and she says like, well, he texted me today and now I'm so confused again. And he basically was like, I think he's also having a hard time. And I think as someone that sees him and understands what he's going through, I wouldn't take these as like such big grandiose moments. I think he's also just trying to figure this out just like you are.
Yeah. But I also think he, again, like they always come back to this of being like, just follow your heart.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very, because he says like, this isn't maybe necessarily the opinion or what I should be telling you in my best interest. But like he tells her like Huihyun is almost always the first one to send out who he's gonna text and what he texts.
Forever.
And he took forever today to think about it.
Yeah.
He's not been great with Dake in these moments.
Yes.
But I think at the root, I think he is like a good
I think so too.
Guy.
I think he just needs to realize he needs to let go of these resentments, bitch.
It's like festering.
It's festering, and it's
uncle festering for sure.
And it's going to end up affecting how you act with other people. And I don't want that for him, because I don't believe that that's his true intention.
I mean, like resentments specifically are like debilitate so many like you have to work through like couples counseling to get over stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you start to resent the other people for anything.
Not doing the dishes.
That's kind of the only current couple that has any storyline in the rest of this episode.
Yeah, girl. There is.
Who do you want to...
We all went... Time turner, bitch.
Oh,
let's do...
Mama, this is Madam Web. Welcome to episode 16. Madam Web.
Her web weaves us all. Her web connects us all.
Yeah.
Let's do, the most untethered from Seokyung's web, which is Minhyung and Sangjeong, because they have their own episode.
Oh.
Just very quickly.
Also
nothing's changed.
Nothing. It is later the same day.
It is later the same day. Nothing has changed. They have these texts, very sweet to one another. They have a talk about it, and Minhyung is immediately like, well, when I asked you, you didn't want to get up. You weren't even asking what, there's barely any time for us to do anything. And you didn't even
You promised me that you were going to help me with lunch. You didn't want to help me with lunch.
And it's just so inconsiderate. And you are selfish. And she's like, why is it always me?
Well, she says, no. I want to specify this. She says, I'm sorry. And then he's like, so you're just allowed to just say I'm sorry and then I'm supposed to accept it?
And then she's like, yeah, because you do it when I talk about the outfit.
And the word the outfit got brought up and I checked out. Yeah. I said, if there was like, what is it? What is the one in Manchurian Candidate where they say whatever and it activates? It puts me to sleep.
The opposite. So they just happen to do this all over again. And Sangjeong is like, you make me feel... We always miscommunicate because you always feel like I'm doing something wrong. And then he's like, but isn't that the point of miscommunication, where someone is wrong? And she's like, what are you... I can't even do... I was telling Adam that there is a sense of like, I do think Sangjeong has... she needs to grow, obviously. Still, she needs to mature a little bit more. But there is something right about her defending, like, I listen to my feelings. And she says that they have a second fight because she leaves, and then he wants to keep talking. He, like, apologizes again in the second fight. But she says, like, you keep blaming me for things because you feel insecure. And he's like, what are you talking about? And that's when I was like, yeah, like, she does see what's happening.
Yeah.
But they both do, but then they just fall right back into doing it again.
They're just
two different people.
And it's so frustrating. And like, I think there are things that I really like the show because I think the show does a really good job most of the time about really showing, like, it was not one person's fault that a couple broke up.
Yes.
The only one I would probably say was one person's fault is Hui-un Hye-won, because he kind of brought it on himself.
Yes. He, like, lied, basically.
Right. And, like, she didn't really do anything as far as we know. But, like, past that, everyone kind of has some culpability. Maybe it's not 50-50 split, but, like, there's some issues on both sides for them to not see each other eye to eye. The Minhyung Sangjeong one is so frustrating because, right, you think of a person, you have to become a surgeon, you have to be very logical, you have to be very, like,
this is what you did
precise.
wrong, so just fix it.
Right. It's like about the order of operations. Sangjeong, I cannot tie this back to her career, obviously, but, like, Sangjeong
She
is
wakes
like
up
a
and
free spirit.
Yep, she'll wake up and decide what to do.
Yes. And that is her charm. And it is also, like, the thing of, like, it's like type A versus type B.
Yeah.
She is type B and he is type A.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to reconcile the two unless you fully accept the other's personality as, like, what it is.
And yeah.
If you think it's like, oh, but they'll change, then they won't. This is what it is. This is what it is. And they definitely won't change if you try to force them to change. That's not happening.
That's the thing.
There is, like, growth and change that happens.
Yeah.
Like, people do grow and change. I think it was like Simon Dominic in the last episode said, like, people don't really change. And I was like, well, I don't think that's true. I think there are, like, things that happen in your life that show you, like, ways you can improve, blah, blah, blah. But, like,
it's not going to come from just telling, like, hey,
it's
you
not
need to
gonna be,
stop
like,
doing that.
nagging someone.
But also, like, so he's mad, right, about, like, the whole lunch thing, and she promised or whatever. And then on their second argument,
and I would be mad too. I mean, like,
yes.
I'm on his side in terms of being, like,
exactly.
It's very upsetting.
His feelings were very valid of, like, there's barely any time, and you haven't come up and wanted to hang out with me.
She would respect him more if he was like, my feelings were hurt, because that is the language that she would be able to hear.
Yes, but he didn't do that. He did scolding. He's like, a normal person would
Here's
actually
how
be
you should
considerate.
correct this behavior, because that's how he sees, like, his problem solving solution is, like, what the next time this happens, how are we going to change the procedure? Whereas she's like, well, let's talk about how we felt about it and blah 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 blah. And, like, both are completely valid. It's just how they're coming at it from different directions, but, like, talking around the problem. And it's not
clicking.
It's so frustrating because they also do not listen to each other at
no
all.
There was one moment where they're literally just saying
talking.
They're just talking, they're arguing, and
it's like listening to an episode of this, just talking.
Just
say talk. So they're unwell.
And
I don't want them together.
I don't want them together. And I told Adam they're going to end up still picking each other.
They're 100% going to pick each other because they don't have anybody else to pick.
There's no one else to pick.
And at this point, so many people have seen them be messiata, floppiata, that, like, no one's picking them either. No one's picking Sangjeong. Previously, before Minhyung was on the show, I was like, why is no one picking Sangjeong? She's so fun. And she really didn't have this, like, she was, like, not negative when they were at Itaewon. Like, I think she was a little sad that, like, no one was texting her. But, like, apart from that, like, great personality, blah, 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 blah. I would stay so far away from this energy. And I'm not even trying to be, like, whatever.
It's bad, but it's just, like...
It's just so clear. It's like...
You have a
growth
lot
that needs to happen.
Yes, there's the growth that needs to happen.
It sucks saying that because she is I love her so much.
Yeah.
Ugh. It's like your
sisters.
It's like your sister, yeah.
Dongjin and Dahye too, they also don't talk.
Dongjin and Dahye, yeah, they just go to bed.
Dongjin was like, Dahye was like, are we going to talk? And he's like, no, I'm tired. Let's do it tomorrow. And she was like, okay. That was it.
That was it. Thank you. They were told by production staff, they were like, producers were like, there's other couples that are really about to go through it. So I'm going to
need you guys to
keep it for tomorrow.
Yes. Let's talk about Changjin and Yoojung specifically on how they rekindled, and then do Seokyung's web, because everyone else is tangled.
The web we weave. Okay. So Changjin and Yoojung, after dinner, they go for like a walk. And because they started talking about like, I know what
they did.
Yeah, because obviously he said, I hope you didn't have too much fun today at Udo, blah, 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 blah. So they started talking about after dinner, or after the text, I should say. And then this led them to just like kind of, I don't want to say rekindle, because I did not feel a rekindling.
But they just kind of like hung out the rest of the night and just talked.
They hung out the rest of the night. And it was very sweet because they were going to split off at one point, and he like called her back so they could walk more together. And it was very reminiscent of like the story they told about how they started dating, which was like they walked in that park and then they walked around her house and he could never like say it because he was too shy and nervous and blah, blah, blah. So that was very cute.
Yeah.
It was perfectly
and they like
pleasant.
take selfies together.
She takes photos of him. Yeah. It's very nice.
This is the part of the relationship, the good parts that they're reliving.
Right.
That I'm like, that I do think out of all of them, they do feel like their bad parts just felt more situational.
RJ, say this. I completely agree.
That's why I was like, if they do end up choosing each other again,
they are maybe the only couple that I would be like, okay.
Yeah, I would give it a second shot.
Yeah. Especially if he's learned
that
how to share.
That I can't hide my hardships from her.
Correct.
Because she doesn't care about them. Like, she's not thinking the things that I'm telling myself.
If he can stop being proud, then it's fine.
I do think I
don't think it's going to happen.
I do think the show has put him in such lousy situations that has made him have to be like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of like a loser.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped.
Yeah.
I think she liked seeing him kind of like be embarrassing a little bit more.
But I also think what is attractive about Changjin is that he is kind of like a big oaf.
Yeah.
Like he seems very soft and he seems very thoughtful, even when obviously we know he's done thoughtless things. I think he's been very
considerate,
understanding that he was the one who fucked up on that relationship. And it's totally her call, whatever she wants to do. I can see why he's hoping she comes back because she's great. But like, if the show ended and she decided to go back with Changjin, I would not be upset.
Yeah.
Especially because I think she's like the most mature person on the show.
Yes, I think they both could go back and be like, okay, I genuinely think we learned what we needed to learn. Let's give it another shot.
Yep.
Wait, I've talked myself into this now.
No, I know, but I like Yoojung and Juwon a lot too, because I like a new fresh start for them too.
Yes, and I think
especially for Juwon.
And I do think that they both deserve people that will just instantly click with one another and also will problem solve the same way.
Yes. Yeah. I think they're similar in the way they handle conflict too, which will be nice.
Yeah.
For both of them. Yeah. Because that was some of the problems in their previous relationships.
Okay, let's talk about this web girl.
You know what? She is a lot like Dakota Johnson.
She went up to Yoojung. She went up to Juwon and was like, that's not what happened, Juwon.
That's not true. That's not true, Juwon.
That's not true, Juwon.
Okay. So, Juwon, as we know, did not follow her instructions.
She
is
pissed.
like livid.
Like
the rest
mad.
of this episode.
Every time he walks in, she's like, ugh, don't you ever just want to hit someone?
God, don't you want to slug somebody?
In front of like Kwang Tae, Hui-hyun, Yoo-jung.
It's
embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
I have never felt more
So
secondhand
I know.
embarrassment than this
Embarrassed.
episode. She and Juwon, she goes and gets Juwon. She goes and finds him. He's talking to Hye-won and Dongjin. And she like comes in.
She's like, Juwon, come on.
We gotta go talk. Get out.
She gives him back his giant cardigan that he lent her.
Yes. He calls her.
And like during this whole fight, he's like, why do I feel like still in front of Dongjin and Hye-won. He's like, why do I feel like I'm about to get like hit or whatever? And she basically is like, well, if you don't want to talk, whatever, we don't want to talk. And she like basically like storms out crying, and he stands up and is quickly like, wait, Tagia, wait. And he immediately corrects himself. He's like, if the Freudian slip came out and you called her honey,
Freud. They go talk outside.
it's bad.
They go to the little like secluded spot in the trees with the fairy lights.
Yeah, the
it's very romantic.
Midsummer Night's Dream.
The least romantic conversation.
Mm-hmm. She basically is like, I told you.
So here are the two arguments.
He was like,
her argument is that she has been on this show and she has texted. This is her argument. This is not what actually happened on the show, by the way. But this is what she says happened. She would text people when she went on a date with them.
mm-hmm.
I think this is mostly true, but she would do it a day later. But we know that Seokyung is a person who like thinks about stuff, has like ruminate on it before she makes a decision. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why she like took a day to text people, not necessarily the day they went on a date. That's her story. She's like, every time I went on a date, I got a little more friendly with them, blah, 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 blah. I've not like spent my whole time going after one person. However, there's not really anybody that like is her type on the show.
She's interested.
Correct. His argument is that like, why would you tell me to text Jong-un when if I didn't have like, it was like a setup date. You clearly like.
So I would have just texted her thanks for lunch.
Right.
Literally, that's what the text would be.
Right. And it wouldn't have been heartfelt, and it would have felt shitty because you made it such a big deal.
Yes.
And then he was like, and if you had asked me to text you, I may have actually done it. But you didn't ask me to text you.
Didn't.
And you didn't text me.
Because it's not about,
I can't believe we're talking about texting like this, by the way.
Yeah.
So those are the two arguments. She uses this as being like, because you texted Yoo Jung again, which also, he texted her emojis. It's not like he was like, I mean, obviously she doesn't know what he texted, but like,
yeah.
I would be pissed too if I was Yoo Jung, because I was like, okay, but you could have said like,
missed you today.
I'm gonna figure this out with.
Yes.
Don't worry about.
Yes, that was
Miss
what.
Ma'am.
Yes, that was the talking head for Yoo Jung. Was like, it could have been a way for him to clear the air.
Yeah.
Clear the loom.
Just okay. No, he didn't.
He did not clear the loom.
This is like, this whole situation that happens in this episode is like, I'm going to say 95% Seokyung. I feel pretty strongly about that. That she is like out of her mind. I do think it is partly, there's the level of like, you want to do well on the show and you want your ex to do just a little worse than you. You want them to still do well. You don't want to
be outdone by your ex.
You don't want to be outdone by your ex. And like, if he's already kind of monogamous with one person,
then that's a clear path to being like, oh, he's leaving with someone and it's not gonna
but also she herself wasn't like trying to go after anyone. She was like, well, let me just keep playing the field, which like, fair enough. If you're dating around, if that's how you want to do the show, you're more than welcome to do the show like that. There's not like a rule book of how to do the show. But like, you can't then be like,
that's why we keep thinking like there's something going on. There's something that whether she's competitive or
well,
she just
okay, I don't want,
like,
should I say?
No. I think it's
we don't want to armchair
therapize.
But I would say there's a nar word that gets used, tendencies that gets used a lot, and I don't want to throw that out there, but there is like a level of like, it is the Seokyung show.
Yeah.
And
this has not been about Seokyung.
And this is why she's like really annoyed.
Yes. Because even in like texting Huihyun,
the way,
you know, like, and then
the lying about, the weird like,
okay. So that's kind of like where they end their conversation. And she's like, well, now I figured it out. Now it's clear to me that you really don't want to be with me. And Juwon is like, but you said you weren't confident.
You were not.
He said you weren't confident about wanting to get back together with me. And she was like, that's right, I wasn't. And now I am confident that I don't want to get back with you because of how clear you have been for one person. And he's like, it's basically blaming him for,
she basically wanted him, I think, okay,
she wanted a reason.
Here's what I really
him.
think what it is. I think Seokyung does feel bad for the way that she ended their relationship with the like blocking and everything, but she is like too
proud,
let's say proud, too proud to admit that like
that was wrong.
That was wrong. I am not saying that what Juwon did that with that whole situation was perfect, but I think that like the way to solve it is not to just block someone out of turn.
Yeah.
I think she is like I think she's like an insane person. But I think like, and I don't, I kind of don't mean it pejoratively. Like it's like very fun television. I am enjoying watching it, but it is very frustrating because I am envisioning myself having these conversations, and I would just like get to like and I don't like confrontation, but I would get to the point of like the directness.
Yeah,
and there is like a level of like, I wish he would just be like, you made it clear to me on the show that you didn't want to get back together. That was what you said to me. And so I am doing the show. I'm on a reality television show.
I'm dating another
person. I like that other person. I don't really have any other options that I'm interested in here on the show. And she likes me back. So like, why would I not pursue that? She is like taking it as like a moral, personal slight that he is like going after one person. You're doing this
in front of me.
Right.
You don't see how offended I get when I get these texts saying that you have texted jeong like 2-3 days in a row now.
Oh, Mama, it's been longer than 2-3 days.
You don't even think about me when you do that.
And he's like, at least like 7 days in a row now. Yeah. He is.
So she's like, then I'm for sure now. Then great, this proves it. She storms off. She leaves. Juwon comes back, sits with Hye-won a little bit. Mm-hmm. They finally talk. Juwon and Hye-won talk, and Juwon was like, yeah, she's crazy, basically.
It's so...
She texts...
He calls her two-faced at a talking head,
yes,
which is wild.
Because she's like, yes, he texted Hye-won. And Hye-won was like, well, that's weird, because she just found out today that I guess Hye-won liked her. Even though she said before their date, she did highly think of Hye-won as someone that she would be interested in. And then Juwon was like, well, the math ain't mathing now.
No. I feel like I'm playing a game of Clue.
And then called her two-faced.
It was wild. I could not believe he said it on television. I was like, I mean, imagine they get back together. You're going to see that.
Yeah.
This is what I want to know. How do the couples who get back together afterward watch this and not
there's interviews of Hee-do and Nayeon, but I just...
Yes, but they're both insane.
They're actually crazy. But that's the thing. they are two very fiery people that are together.
And I'm sure they watched it, and it was great.
Yeah.
Because they got riled up.
Yeah.
And it was great. Yeah. I have no doubt in my mind.
No doubt that
good for them.
Yeah.
Is it worse if the fights are about nothing? Because Hiru and Nayeon's fights were always about literally nothing.
Literally nothing.
Or is it worse to have these fights
Here,
that are like,
it's like they're still mad at each other for this one thing.
Yes, for the word gaslighting.
For the word
also
gaslighting.
Like,
don't do this. Don't say it. Let's just say
the performance given on the show,
the webs that were woven today,
right? Madam Web,
Madam
Gaslight.
That I was like, well,
I
see it now.
A world in which that is what was happening.
And being called out, obviously, because the way she's like, you used that word on me was so offensive, blah blah blah. But I think it is putting the label on something that she probably doesn't realize is what it is being perceived as, when she is trying to just like process her feelings. I don't know.
I think there is it's so wild. He and Hyewon go to the common space. They look out the window. They see Huiyun go in to talk to Seokyung and Kwangtae, which is obviously like, those are the two that she's closest to. That's who she's probably going to end up picking if she doesn't pick Juwon.
Yeah.
So he was like, that's interesting. Turn around, and then Changjin and Yoojung I like walk together, by, and she avoids eye contact.
Avoiding eye contact with him. And that's when Juwon was like, well, I just lost the show.
Yeah. He was like, I mean, somebody last week on our episode was like, can't wait for
you to watch the episode
and eat your words. And Mama, get the alphabets out.
And it's not my words, girl. Juwon's eating his words.
We're all eating.
We're all eating, girl. Literally, he was like, well, fuck my drag.
So then Juwon goes, he's out smoking. Seokyung comes by. He calls her over. They start to like have the fight again
because he's
trying to pin her on this Huiyun thing that he's now found out. Well,
yeah, now I've heard about this Huiyun thing. So you have been, all of these things that you're telling me were at the same time. You've been playing your little game, and you're actually in deeper with other people too.
I genuinely don't think she is. I don't think this Huiyun thing is real. I think she just is like,
it was just messy, and it just happened because now she's just trying to like.
But it really is that she's too. This is really. I think it really just is that she's too proud, because at this point, if she really is like, I want to get back with Juwon, even though
that means I would have to admit that I was wrong.
She could just be texting him.
Yeah.
All she would have to do is start texting him every day, and he would get the message really quickly. And she even acknowledges in front of Yoojung.
Oh my God, the way this ends.
The way this ends is cinema.
They are they're all hanging out with Huiyun and Yoojung. Keep walking into people fighting. So they were like, let's just fucking go.
Yeah, the two Mangnes.
Seokyung ends up ending her current fight with Juwon, so she goes back to her room. In front of Yoojung, Seokyung is like, well, it just proves that I should probably just like stop and give up on it and let him keep texting the one person.
Directly into. I mean, you would talk about eye contact. Miss Seokyung said, "I know how to have eye contact, honey."
And Yoojung goes crazy. She's just like, okay, girl, do your show.
I mean, I will say, Yoojung is taking this in stride.
Oh my God.
Because this is not end all be all for her.
No.
Yoojung is a model. So even if she walks away from the show and no one is with her, she's going to go get a man in like 20 minutes. She's going to be fine.
She's going to be fine.
She looks like that.
But she literally was like, she understood what was happening immediately.
Yes.
And she's like, well, we've talked about this, Juwon and I, and we have talked about the possibility of us getting back with our exes, and we will not resent one another if that ends up being the case.
That's the choice, yeah.
If that's ends up being the final choice.
Because they want to follow their heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she even says, and we've talked about how if you say that you want him back, he will go back to you. And then Seokyung says, I know, I've told these two knuckleheads that if I decide to do it, he will fall back in love with me.
But then just like if that's clearly what you want. This is why you're so upset. You're upset that he's with someone else because he's not choosing you. But like you're not giving him a reason to choose you. He's not going to choose you out of nothing because you're like she is playing this she's playing a very dangerous game.
Yes, because it's going to hurt more people than just her and Juwon.
Oh, it's a line from Hello Dolly. Sorry, I had to think about what the line was.
You just said
she goes, you're playing a very dangerous game, tampering of the woman's affections. Honestly, Yoo Jung is so cool. I want to be like Yoo Jung. She's so cool. She takes it so well because I would be like, are you trying to pick a fight with me? Like, what's happening? She really doesn't. I mean, she fully is like, these people are out of their fucking minds.
And we said it that this could be what makes her be like, at least with Changjin,
there's no drama.
And we are sorting it out and we can work through it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think it would be so disappointing for Juwon. I would be so disappointed in Juwon if he's not able to.
If he just leaves the show and nobody. I don't think 2 couples are walking away. Technically, last year's 3 couples. I don't think even 2 couples are walking away. I told
Adam there's a big possibility no one is walking away together in this show.
Okay, so it's either that or all the couples are getting back together. Everyone is getting back with their ex. Except for Chongin and Kwangtae. That's the only one I know for sure is. Every week I'm like, here's the one thing I know. I know nothing.
They will prove us wrong. And they will fucking prove us wrong.
Next week they're going to make out or something at the end of the episode.
Well, next week Hyeon is mad at Dongjin.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if that was editing or what is going on there. Yeah. Yeah, Dongjin's in the hot seat next week.
Yeah. That's why they took a break for this episode.
This
Seokyung thing has...
This Seokyung, it's wild. It's so... I think the most shocking thing about it...
It's so self-destructive. Because it's
not going to benefit. The most shocking thing about it is how selfish it is. And how I think for a lot of the show, a lot of these people are more selfless than if you watch an American dating show.
Oh, yeah, totally.
There's just more of a community aspect to the show for them.
But
you know what I mean?
They've put so much focus and attention on texting this season.
Yes.
Because they're not giving away pity texts. They're not saying thank you texts anymore.
This is what's weird is because that's almost what Seokyung is saying she's been doing, is giving pity texts.
Yeah.
Which I just I don't understand. I would never go on the show because I'm a normal person who would never want this to be. First of all, you know what I wouldn't do? Let's talk about things I wouldn't do. More than being together with someone for 13 years and then 3 months later and then deciding to do a show like this, definitely wouldn't do that.
Going out with someone for 6 weeks.
Going out with someone for 3 months and then breaking up for 6 weeks and then deciding both people admitting that the reason they're doing the show is to get back with their ex. Babe, you don't have to do a show to do that. You can just call the person up and say, do you want to get back together? Have these interactions that are truly so horrendous to watch. I've never felt more
in private. I don't need to see it.
The nation of Korea does not need to see this. I promise, honey. No one needs to see this. Your parents are watching this. Ooh, I hate it. Oh, I hate it so much. That's the one where I'm you gotta figure it out.
And they're gonna end up picking each other.
Oh, they're one. If actually, you know what? If there's anyone that I'm sure I know what the choice is, it is those two. Sangjeong and Minhyung are picking each other, and by the end of the show, when they do the these collage, people are still together, they're not together.
They're gonna be they broke up on the flight back, bitch. Yeah. They landed and were just kidding.
They landed in Incheon and said, bye.
Bye.
Who is your strong pair? I think I did talk myself into Changjin and Yoojung.
Me too.
Wait,
genuinely, if I'm
I really
Who do you
like
feel for the
Dongjin and
most?
K1.
okay.
I really like them. I loved their conversation when she like felt shitty and he was like giving her advice. I think there's just like, I think he is a natural, like wants to be a caregiver.
I just need him.
And I think she is like a person who likes to be taken care of.
Yes. But I need them to have the actual conversation. We keep getting close and close and close, but Dongjin does not want to talk about it. And Dahae.
Oh, Dongjin Dahae.
Yes. Because in order to have this real conversation, Dongjin has to admit that, like,
he has to admit he still loves her, which he doesn't want to do.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't either, because it's admitting it is the thing that's going to make you start feeling those feelings again. There is a level of like,
but
if
you have to open in order to let go. And I genuinely think Dongjin wants to let go.
I don't agree. I think for the show, yes. In a normal circumstance, just stop seeing the person, and at some point you will forget them.
Yeah.
It might take longer, but at some point you're gonna be like, okay, well, I've moved on, right?
If it's been this hard, then you need to move, girl.
Is there any ex couple? I guess it was Changjin and Yoojung.
Changjin and Yoojung is probably. I really feel for Changjin, and I want him to. Even though I don't think he'll feel affected if he doesn't end up with anyone, but he feels the most primed to. I don't know. He's the one that I feel like could get the feelings that he wants reciprocated.
Changjin to me has just been so under the radar.
Yeah.
Like he's not like loud and boisterous. So he's just been really steady. And I think he's been like a really nice presence on the show. Mm-hmm. And everyone seems to really like him. I really do think their situation was a situation.
Work through together.
It was not like a communicative issue.
Yeah.
Which are harder to resolve.
Yeah.
I mean, communication was the situation, but it was like a specific thing.
The one couple that we said they are so sure that
I will say next week, I'm going to come on this podcast and I am 100% going to be like, well, Hwee-hyun
has turned me around. Yeah. He figured it out. He's grown up.
Because he decided he was being wishy-washy. And that's all I need is I just
need growth.
I just need people to realize, like, recognize things about themselves.
Yes.
None of these people are inherently bad people.
No.
They're just, like, so tunnel visioned into their own nonsense that they have to, like, take the horse blinders off. Mm-hmm. We got to use our peripheral, babe.
And just...
We got to do a 360 scan.
Have a bigger sense other than just...
Put your phone in panorama mode. We're going to do the whole picture.